TONU. TONU, truck order not used. So what a TONU is a fee that you need to pay the driver or a carrier for holding their truck when you don't really need it. Let me explain. So a customer will send you over a load tender essentially asking you to book a truck, right? And so you go out, you find a truck, you book it, let's say the day before, you hold that truck all the way overnight. They're not looking for other loads. And then the morning of, right before you're supposed to pick up the load, the customer says, hey, we don't need it. Maybe it's going to be moved to another day, but for whatever reason, they don't need that particular truck right now. So what happens? You need to pay this TONU, truck order not used, pretty self-explanatory, right? To the carrier for holding their truck and wasting their time. Now, it's not your fault, right? And the customer should be charged for this. But that is exactly what it is. It's you're reserving a truck that you're not going to later use at the time that you told them that you guys agreed upon, and so you need to pay them a fee because they weren't finding anything else in the meantime and they reserved it for you. That's it. So how much is a TONU? It depends. So typically I say I pay $250 for a TONU, just about flat across the board. But there are some exceptions, so let me talk about that. Let's say that it was can get freight and you got this load from a customer. They said, hey, you know what, I'm giving it to you, go do your work. And you called up a carrier, you said, hey, I got a lane, I got a load, it goes from point A to point B, it pays X amount of dollars. The carrier says, that's awesome, go ahead and send it over to me. And the customer did send you the load tender, it is yours, and you go ahead and dispatch that truck. And then 10 minutes later, the customer cancels it for whatever reason, right? And so now you only really held the truck for about 10 minutes, but the driver was dispatched. Should you pay them? Maybe the carrier doesn't even ask for anything. I would say this is an exception, but you still pay them. If you only held the truck for 10-15 minutes and the driver didn't drive very far, then I would say $150 is probably fair. If I held that truck overnight, I say no matter what, $250. That's my opinion on it. Other brokers have different opinions, but that is what I feel comfortable with because I don't like wasting carriers' time. I like that carriers also know that I don't like wasting their time. They know that I respect their time, and hopefully that goes both ways. So one thing to be aware of is, just like anything else, you want to have an agreement with a carrier, especially in writing on the rate con, of what a truck order not used should be before you dispatch the truck. And if you did, then yeah, some of those exceptions won't actually matter because you'll have to pay the $250 in full if that's what is actually on the written agreement. I still think it's important, and that is the way that I do it, and that's the way I would recommend anybody else do it, and here's why. One of the common practices with carriers is that they will charge, let's say, $150 for a TONU plus X amount of dollars per mile that they had to drive deadhead. Now, I don't like this because it just creates a huge headache on getting reimbursed by your customer, because the customer looks at this. Now, I understand why carriers do it. It does make sense, and I think it is kind of fair, but it just creates a headache, right? It's a hassle. So the customer looks at it and says, hey, well, why did you get a truck that was 150 miles away? Well, it was the only one that I could find. Well, that's not my problem as a customer. You know, I come to you to find a truck that's not 150 miles away or whatever. I just want it picked up. But now I'm paying 150 plus another 150 for $1 a mile deadhead. Let's just say that's pretty probably average or whatever for that kind of policy or practice that the carriers have. Now I'm paying $300. So for me, I like it just to better, have a $250 flat. Sometimes it would be 150. Sometimes it would be 300. I just like to pay 250 across the board because I know I can get reimbursed by my customer for 250 because I set that in stone, day one. There is no fluctuation. So that kind of already answers our next question, which is who actually pays for the truck order not used? That is going to be the customer. Yes, you are going to pay the carrier because you're the carrier's customer, and then our customer, the broker's customer, is going to reimburse you. Now, can you make money on truck order not used? Yeah, sure. If you pay a carrier $150 and then you charge $250, you're gonna have a gross profit of $100. That is not something that I practice so much. Not saying that you can't do it. I understand that brokers did tie up their time. The carrier is getting paid for their time, right? For holding their truck and not pursuing other loads and taking that phone call and booking it. They need to get paid for that. And so yeah, brokers, if you want to try to make $50 on it, I can understand that. Maybe try to charge your customer a little bit more. But at the end of the day, if I don't make any money off of additional fees on loads and I just make margin on the loads that actually go, I think that's nice, because I do like telling my customers, I always have, I don't make money off of this. I'm not upcharging your detention. I'm not upcharging your truck order not used. I'm not saying you can't, not saying there's anything wrong with upcharging those things, but I like just being able to say that I am not. I am not making money when things go bad for you. I only make money when the job gets done and your loads get delivered and everybody's happy. But ultimately, that's your choice, and to each his own. All right, so this is going to be a really quick example of a truck order not used because there's really not much to it. So here you can see we have Dumas Motor Freight Inc. is invoicing us, right? They're billing us a truck order not used for $150. So a couple different quick things, really quick. You have an invoice number on the top right. You have the date right next to it. You have who they're billing, which is us in this case. You have the ship date, the PO number, the terms, whatever. Right underneath there, you have the item and the truck number, right? This is the truck they were going to put on your load that they reserved for your load. And then next to it, it says truck order not used, and then the rate that they're charging you that you agreed to at the time for a truck order not used, which is $150. Now, we like it to always have our load number on this so we can quickly identify what load it belongs to and make sure that it's being paid out accordingly and attached to that load. And so that, obviously that's an expense for that load. And so for this, we always ask the carriers to send us over the original rate con with it, which of course is what they did here as well. So let's take a look at that. So here you can see it says Charles on the top. Maybe that was the driver or the dispatcher, not really sure, but you can see our load number in the top right-hand side, which is 30365. And this was for a van 53 feet. It is plastic pails, 309 miles. It was for a dry van, and this was supposed to ship out on 6/18/2019. Everything's adding up here. Carrier was Dumas Motor Freight Inc. MC number, primary contact, Zach. If that Zach is the primary contact, then Charles was probably the driver on this. And then underneath it there, it does show that we sent them over a revised rate con for a truck order not used, as you can see there, for $150. So now, if I'm the accounting department, I look at the bill, I look at the rate con that they sent in. Now, if the rate con matches the load, which of course it's going to because it had to be changed in the load before sending the new rate con, right? It's auto-generated. I can see everything matches up. I can just get that thing paid out right away. So this is what a truck order not used looks like, and it's really as simple as that.